You're listening to the Health and Happiness Podcast with Travis Kemper and
Lauren Maxwell. Each episode, we share easy to implement strategies to improve your health, happiness, and overall quality of life.
Everything comes down to poo. From the top of your head to the sole of your shoe. We can figure out what's wrong with you by looking at your poo. Scrubs. How's it going, Travis?
It's good. Julia's out of town at a women's health class, so we may have some barking and interruptions today, but otherwise good. This afternoon, Duke and I are going to go up to the flat tops so that Duke can play in the new 2 feet of snow up there, and I will snowshoe to keep him company.
Nice. That sounds like fun.
Yeah. How's it going?
It's going really good. My friend Jessie is coming up to Flagstaff today, and we're going to go snowboarding tomorrow. We had like 28 inches of snow on Snow Bowl this past week. It snowed a lot.
Nice.
And Keely had so much fun romping in the snow all week. And I even got a snow day because I was supposed to go to a school on the day that it snowed really bad. And that was in Tuba, and Tuba's a lot lower elevation and it never snows. But they got snow too, and so they canceled school. So I got a snow day.
That was convenient.
Yeah, it's been a really fun week. So what are we going to talk about today, Travis?
Well, if you couldn't figure it out from the song in the beginning, we're going to talk about the next big thing in medicine, your poop. I should say it might be the next big thing in medicine. So what is a fecal transplant? A fecal transplant is when a doctor implants feces from a healthy donor into another person to restore the balance and bacteria of their gut, in their gut. The digestive system depends on beneficial bacteria to absorb nutrients and digest food efficiently. But some medical conditions and antibiotics can destroy these good bacteria. A fecal transplant is one way to reintroduce them. This is very cutting edge technology. Fecal transplants originated in ancient Chinese medicine more than 1700 years ago. So we've talked about this a little bit here and there on the podcast. Health and healthcare is in a long process of gradually reverting back to traditional medicine, from 500 AD in China. So they're reverting back to traditional medicine and the techniques from that stuff from pharmaceuticals, because we have maxed out the benefits that we're getting in many ways, as we've talked about in a previous episode where we talked about how many people are actually dying from drug overdoses of legal pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
So how do you do a fecal transplant? Well, in most cases, a doctor will deliver the donor feces to the recipient through a colonoscope. So it's kind of like a colonoscopy. They're just putting something in there instead of just camera.
Yeah.
Instead of just the camera to look around. It's a flexible tube they can insert into the colon through the rectum. They usually sedate you before the procedure, so you will not feel any pain or discomfort. But they are now working on freeze-dried ways. They're working on capsules, so you can swallow the poop just like a normal pill and get it into your gut. So it's emerging as a treatment for a wide range of disorders, including Parkinson's disease, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, myoclonus dystopia, multiple sclerosis, obesity, insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, and autism. It probably doesn't stop there. We didn't even say the thing that it's used for the most in that list, which, Lauren, you're going to go over.
Right. So first of all, there's a potential for treating obesity with FMT, which is pretty exciting. Obesity is associated with changes in the composition of the intestinal microbiota, and the obese microbiome appears to be more efficient in harvesting energy from the diet. So fecal Microbiota Transplantation, which is what FMT stands for, represents a clinically feasible way to restore the gut microbial ecology and has been proven to be a breakthrough for the treatment of recurrent C. diff, which is, I think, the thing it is the most used for at this time.
Yeah, for sure.
Early results in humans have shown that FMT from lean donor, when transplanted into participants with metabolic syndrome, resulted in a significant improvement in insulin sensitivity and increase in intestinal microbial diversity. Whoa, that was a mouthful.
That's why I gave you the big word.
Yeah, that was a lot of big words. The awesome thing about this is the therapy is generally really well tolerated and it appears pretty safe. Clinical trials are being conducted now to evaluate its use for other conditions, including inflammatory bowel disease, irritable bowel syndrome, diabetes mellitus, non-alcoholic. Oh no, I forgot how to pronounce that word already.
It's a kidney disease.
It's a kidney disease.
Yeah.
And hepatic
disease.
encephalopathy.
Another kidney disease.
Another kidney disease. More research was showing that FMT can also help you lose weight. So this is going to be another lot of big words because the actual study itself was talking about like the kind of like intensity of which giving these transplants, like how that affected weight loss. So what they found is that multiple donors and having a non-intensive fecal microbiota transplantation that induced significant weight loss in certain people with obesity, as well as more effectively increased a certain type of healthy bacteria than single donor intensive transplantation. So the thing that I thought was really fascinating is, according to the results, that it showed that 13.2% of patients with the mixed donor non-intensive FMT achieved weight loss of at least 10%, which didn't happen in the other group.
And it wasn't, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And it wasn't combined with like exercise and diet. It was just
the FMT.
They took my poop.
Yeah, they took healthy poop.
Took my poop, your poop. Yeah.
They took healthy poop and gave it to people with obesity.
Yeah, but they took it from multiple donors.
Yes, that was the
study.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was non-intensive, so it was
lot.
like over a longer period of time, I think, rather than like the intensive one, which was like really frequent. But yeah, 10% is a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of my patients weigh 250, and 10%, that's 25 pounds.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
I was actually really like blown away by the results of that study, which is.
We'll get ready to be continually blown away.
Oh, so much of this is so fascinating.
So the research in obesity is just kind of starting, but in psychology, there's actually a lot of studies that are going on and have already been concluded. And there's some insane evidence with fecal microbiota transplantation. I won't try and say that again. We'll call it FMT. So the gut-brain axis is a bidirectional signaling pathway between the gastrointestinal tract and the brain. We're actually going to have a special guest coming up that is an expert on this. Yeah, so it'll be sometime in April. The hundreds of trillions of microorganisms populating the gastrointestinal tract are thought to modulate this connection and have far-reaching effects on the immune system, central and autonomic nervous systems, and GI functioning. There appears to be strong evidence for the treatment and transmission of psychiatric illnesses through FMT. The treatment and transmission.
Yeah.
So many studies have found a significant decrease in depressive and anxiety-like symptoms and behaviors resulting from the transplantation of healthy microbiota. The inverse is also found, with the transmission of depressive and anxiety-like symptoms and behaviors resulting from the transplantation of microbiota from psychiatrically ill donors to healthy recipients. Now, Lauren, we have talked on multiple episodes about, I have no idea where you find these people to study, but
That's what I
there
was
is
thinking.
no way.
That's what I was thinking when I read this.
No way you're going to convince me to put an unhealthy person's poop in my body, regardless of what you think it's going to happen.
Nope.
I would have to be incredibly desperate, and you would have to be paying me very well.
And
But I would have to be more desperate than I ever was in college.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, part of me is like, I don't even know what it would take for me to participate in getting healthy poop transplant before, like, we knew that it had benefits. What?
If you were really depressed?
Well, yeah. Or anxious.
If I was really depressed and you told me, hey, we're going to try this out, the antidepressants that you're taking obviously aren't working. What we're going to do is put a happy person's poop in you and see what happens. I'd be like, you know what? Whatever.
Why
at that
not?
point, you know what I mean? So
Why
I can see it from their point of view. But for me, as a not very, very depressed person, there's no way in hell you're getting me to put somebody else's poop in me unless there's a significant benefit that I'm supposed to understand. And apparently there's a significant opposite of a benefit. There's a significant consequence to it in that I will become more anxious and more depressed with their unhealthy poop.
Yeah, what I hope happened is then that they then did a FMT again with healthy poop. So that they
to revert them back to
yeah. Man, that's a tough bargain. Side note, I learned something from reading these studies for this episode that was kind of related, but also not really related to FMT specifically. Did you know that the method of delivery affects a baby's microbiome? Apparently,
I did not.
Yeah, I didn't either. Apparently, vaginally delivered babies have more health-associated bacteria from their mothers than babies who are born by C-section. Which I was like, I almost went down a rabbit hole looking this up, and I feel like I'm going to probably after we finish recording because I was just so fascinated. According to the latest research, this difference disappears by like 6 to 9 months. But I seriously had no idea that affected like your gut as a baby. 6
to 9 months is a long time in development, as you know way better than I do.
I know that. I mean, like 0 to 3 years old is the most like critical time period ever, and 6 to 9 months is a really long time of it, especially if you know, like you're more medically fragile as a baby. Like that could be a big deal.
I would. Oh, when you go down the rabbit hole, and if people are interested, we might have to do an episode on this. Mm-hmm. We might also have to pause right now, but Duke is angry. I would be interested to see if those babies actually get more diseases in that first 6 to 9 months, especially like GI diseases in distress that, and then if those have long-term outcomes. That's where my brain goes.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's, a lot of research that I'm going to do after this. But one thing I did see, which is going to lead us into our next piece of information about FMT, is that FMT, there's a lot of research in autism. And in these particular studies that I read regarding FMT and autism, one of the common things of all of these children in the studies were that they were born by C-section.
Oh, no kidding.
I'm not kidding. I was like, oh, what the heck? This is crazy. So anyway,
I never heard that one.
I had, at least for these kids in the studies that I read. I don't know if that's the case for all of them, but that was the case for the ones that I was reading about.
And now there's another rabbit hole.
I know.
That's wild.
Isn't it? Yeah. So, while there's a lot of research that needs to be conducted, early studies have shown promising results. So in one particular study, they compared differences in the microbiome of children with autism compared to typically developing children. At the start of the study, children with autism were found to have lower diversity in their respective gut microbiomes and were depleted of certain strains of helpful bacteria. So then they took these children and they did FMT with healthy microbiome, that whatever FMT stands for, but I forgot.
Fecal Microbiota Transplant.
Thank you. Yes. So they did healthy transplants. And 2 years post-treatment with FMT, most of the initial improvements in gut symptoms remained. In addition, parents reported a slow, steady reduction of ASD symptoms during treatment and over the next 2 years. A professional evaluator found a 45% reduction in core ASD symptoms, such as language, social interaction, and behavior at 2 years post-treatment compared to before treatment began.
Lauren, can you define ASD for us, please?
That's autism spectrum disorder. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I knew that from the little bit that I've done with kids, but I figure some listeners probably didn't.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So roughly 30 to 50% of all people with autism have chronic GI problems. And so I think that might be part of why this is, kind of showing to be super successful.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I didn't know that that patients with autism have GI problems increased.
I guess last but not least, before we wrap up our episode on FMT, we should talk about maybe some of the risk factors. There aren't a whole lot, which is great. Like I said, it's a pretty safe thing. But a 2016 study identified several risk factors for fecal transplant failure, including being female, interestingly enough, previous hospitalization, and a recent surgery before the transplant.
Okay. And that's just risk factors for it not working, not taking. Yeah. I don't really have a challenge this week, Lauren.
I'm not going to challenge people to go get some poop. So
no, the only thing I would say for a challenge is just understand that in general, your GI tract and your brain, your GI tract affects your brain and it kind of affects everything. So just, diet is very important. Yeah, so take care of your stomach and you take care of yourself much better.
Yeah.
Lauren, you did great today. This was fun.
Thanks, Travis. You did great today. This was super interesting.
and Duke, you did okay today.
I'd give you a solid B, Duke.
He was good until the last 3 minutes of the episode, and then he was very angry.
Yeah, it's okay. That's okay. He's super cute. We all forgive him.
He is super cute. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to this episode of the Health and Happiness Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode and are getting benefits from our content.
If your life is improving in part due to the information in this podcast, we would greatly appreciate you sharing the episode with your family and friends on social media and leaving us a review so we can continue to reach more people and improve the health and happiness of the community at large.
Thanks again, and we will see you next week for another episode of the Health and Happiness Podcast.